Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 29. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Mary Jane Allen, for Manifest Your Life Dream. Mary Jane is a financial healer and Akashic Records consultant. Welcome, Mary Jane.
Thank you so much, Holly. It's delightful to be with you.
I'm so excited to share you with my podcast readers because I'm so happy to have come across you and the work that you do, and I absolutely love it. So I'm so pleased to have you today.
Thank you, honey. It's my absolute pleasure.
Why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background?
Well, I actually was struggling for a number of years because after graduating university, I basically didn't know what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And essentially, I went into several, office-type jobs that, I felt like a hamster on a wheel. They left me feeling very bored, honestly. They were not interesting, but yet, I couldn't seem to find work that I really enjoyed. I did know, and I've always known, however, that I had a deeper purpose. I knew that I was supposed to be doing something to help other people, but I just didn't know what it was. And I don't know, I guess it was about 3, almost 4 years ago now. I just kind of greeted the new year basically with kind of the energy of I'm not taking no for an answer. And I just kept asking God source energy, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And after a number of months, and I'm sure there were clues there for me, but I didn't see them because I was so blocked. Anyway, after a number of months, I was guided to an Akashic Records healer, and I began working with her. And essentially, she, went into my record and very easily told me my life purpose. And we began clearing around it because I had a lot of fears about stepping into this work, which was why I had avoided it for so many years. So, I kind of came to my life purpose in a roundabout way. Being in it and being able to help other people at such a deep level is, it's been worth the journey, to say the least. It's very satisfying for me.
I think so many women who have found their life purpose and have built a business around it feel like it's been a huge journey to get to that. It's not like it just came to them one day. It was like there were so many things that they had to get through and experience before they actually got to the knowledge of their life purpose and started working in it.
Yeah. I think, in my own clients, I typically, see people who have had similar situations to my own. They're doing a career that it's paying the bills, but it's certainly not who they are at a very deep level.
Yeah.
And it's not satisfying to them. Actually, I have a couple of new clients this week, and one of them is a lovely lady who basically came to me saying, yes, I definitely want to know my life purpose. I want to start feeling around it. But, she said she's been working in the corporate world, for nearly 20 years. And she's absolutely exhausted. She's been, getting promotions and, she does very well for herself. But, the work, it's fine, but it doesn't leave her feeling joy at the end of the day. And, that kind of a lifestyle, that 9 to, 7 at night probably, every day is absolutely exhausting. And, I think it was her actual physical body and the exhaustion level that basically brought her to me. So, yeah, it's all very, very good. And we now know her life purpose, and she's clearing around it, and it's exciting.
Oh, that's fascinating. I love that. Before we go on a little bit further, why don't you explain to our listeners what exactly are the Akashic Records? Because I was trying to explain this to a friend the other day, because I was so excited about the session that I had with you. And I finished explaining to her, and she said, "Oh, Holly, you really are very woo-woo, aren't you?" And I just thought, oh, this stuff is so normal to me. And I love it so much. And then I try to explain it to people, and I think, I don't know. So why don't we hear from you? What are the Akashic Records?
Well, the Akashic Records are an enormous energetic database. They contain the history of every soul that has ever existed across time. So, you can only imagine, or most of us can't even imagine, how much information is actually in there. So when we become attuned to the Akashic Records, we receive Akashic Record guides to, bring out the information that we need. The Akashic Records are also called the Mind of God. They're also called the Hall of Records, and they're actually referred to in the Bible. I believe they're referred to as the records. I'm not, terribly familiar with the Bible, but a couple of people told me that. In fact, one of my mentors told me. So it's quite interesting. And I don't know that, people who read the Bible actually know what the Akashic Records are, but that is, it is referred in there. They are referred to in there. Basically, the Akashic Records, of course, there is a file or a record for every person on Earth now and who has ever lived. And in that file is every piece of information about you from the time your soul first incarnated. So, you can imagine the ability when I work with a client, and for example, oftentimes I am working with people about their money or their life purpose or, compulsive issues that are around their money. What I do is I'm guided to ask certain questions of the record keepers. And essentially, I'm then just shown, what the issues are, and we clear them. So we may be going back, numerous lifetimes, sometimes, back to the 1500s or, wherever it is, because sometimes that's where the true source of an issue for us is. And very often there are numerous places that an issue comes from and has wounding around. I call it soul wounding. One of my mentors used that term, and that resonated with me. And basically, the soul wounding is what we're clearing, we're healing, because we're healing at the level of your soul, and we're healing everything that is standing in the way of you accomplishing a certain goal or, living the life that you really want to live. Whether you want to move into your life purpose or whether you want to become financially wealthy or a combination thereof. Or, for example, some people come for relationship issues because they've had, a number of troubled relationships and they're wondering kind of what, this pattern is about. It's all, the answers are all found in your Akashic record, and they can all be healed, which is the really good news.
And I think that's the very interesting and unique thing about an Akashic Records session is that not only are you accessing this information and getting really clear information about you and your past and present, but you're also getting healing.
Yes, yeah. I began my career as a financial healer by simply learning to read the Akashic Records. And in doing so, you receive an attunement and quite a bit of training because, you have to protect yourself energetically and, a number of other things. But I knew early on that I was not meant to just heal EFT and NLP, and they're wonderful techniques. Mm-hmm. And, at some point I may do them for my own purposes, but I just knew that there was a very deep method of healing that I had to achieve. And I was drawn to the records simply from my own experience of finding my first mentor through that work. And then I just knew that I needed to be trained in healing in the records because, honestly, someone actually locally was in my town here was asking me what I did the other day. And she's quite open and quite woo-woo. But I thought, oh, my gosh, this is exciting. I'd love to tell you. Anyway, it just was, me telling her about, how I can go into, her soul's past and heal things at a very deep level. And, I think people, unless they're ready to hear about this work, it doesn't always resonate with them because it is so unusual. But she actually did know about it, so I was quite impressed and happy.
Yeah, I think it sounds kind of like too good to be true. That you could get access to this information about yourself, and that it's real, and that it exists, and you can get at it. It just, people aren't used to hearing about that, and I think it just, again, sounds too good to be true. So a lot of people who aren't ready to experience it kind of think, oh, really?
I don't think so. Not so much. Yeah. No. I completely agree with you, Holly. I've been immersed in it for a number of years now, so I don't sort of think of it that way. But yes, I know that what you're saying is true. And I guess, honestly, when people, ask me to work with them and so on, I'm simply the conduit. I've been trained, yes, but what I do and what any Akashic record healer who has proper training does is calling on divine source energy. We are calling on the masters of creation to actually do the healing. I can't do this healing. I mean, I'm a human being, a soul living in a human body. I can access the information, and I'm told from the guides what exactly needs to be healed. And then I'm calling on, divine masters to do the healing. Yeah, it's very profound work, and it's extremely sacred. And I think, if someone hasn't had a session, that's always kind of the overlying feeling that people have after a session. And, that makes me so joyful because, that's why I'm here. It's amazing for me.
That's lovely. So tell us a little bit about your business journey. How did you get from having that session with your mentors to having built the business that you have today?
Again, a very challenging journey. I began writing a blog, I guess almost a year and a half ago now. And at that time, I knew, yes, that I was a financial healer, but at that time, I didn't know fully how I was going to do the healing or, what sort of form it was going to take. I was studying law of attraction coaching at the time, which is great. I think that's wonderful. But I knew that there was something else I was supposed to be doing. And shortly after that, I then began studying the Akashic Records after having worked with my Akashic Records mentor for a while. And I guess the biggest challenge for me, once I began writing the blog, was visibility. Even though I had been working with my mentor for quite a while at that point, honestly, I had a lot of growing to do because I had to go from someone who basically wanted to be kind of hidden in the crowd, for lack of description. I was used to working in offices and, really blending in with people and not ever being like a leader or standing out or anything. And then in my purpose, which is a very large one, I'm meant to heal many thousands of people and train others to do this work. So, I really have had a lot of challenges around becoming visible. But, again, knowing what I had to do, I hired a wonderful coach. And, I'm now doing live radio on the Dr. Pat Show on Transformation Talk Radio. And for me, that has been, the biggest change in my business, honestly, because that's been an enormous way of becoming visible for me.
That is a huge step in becoming more visible, isn't it? Because that's a national radio show in the U.S.?
Yes, it is. And I have to say that I never dreamt I would ever be doing something like that. But, things happen, and the journey just led me there. And I actually knew from my own work in my own Akashic record that, the website, the platform that I've had, the blog, was kind of the lead-in to doing the Dr. Pat Show. And, through the Dr. Pat Show and other things, I've met lovely people like yourself. So there you go.
And what do you love most about your business?
That's an easy question for me to answer. It's how I feel when I see people making changes in their lives because of the work I've done with them. I actually had a few new clients last week who are in programs, and we do a weekly session. It was kind of funny because I I heard from each of them. I like to check in with people, obviously, the next day to see how they're feeling, because sometimes there can be, a bit of energetic sort of the body can become tired or, sometimes people don't sleep well and so on. And I have things I tell them to do, but I like to check in anyway because it's just me. For the next 3 days, I received an email from each one of these ladies, and they were full of exclamation marks. And they were saying that, I am feeling fantastic. You would not believe what happened at work today. I'm so excited. I haven't felt this good in years. And literally my husband came home that first night. I just opened the one email, and I just end up crying because it is my life's work, and here it is making these enormous changes. It just is so joyful. Yeah.
And I think that is really a hugely rewarding aspect of what you do from what it sounds.
Yeah.
So what would you say would be your top tips on how someone could have a successful Akashic Records session? Is there anything that they need to get clear on, or any special intentions that they need to set before they go into a session?
What I like to do is, I like to ask the client some questions. If they're just having one session with me, I still like to send them an email and kind of find out some details, challenges are, and what they want to focus on. Because, even if you're having one session, for me, I just find this a better way of doing it because, that way we don't have to spend the time at the beginning of the session kind of finding out about your history and, what you want to work on. We can just dive right in. Mm-hmm. And for clients who are doing one of my programs, I have a Money Love program, which basically is a 6-month one-on-one program that, it essentially just changes your financial situation enormously, and your relationship with money. But, if someone is doing that program or my Life Purpose Revealed program, I have a couple of questionnaires that I send them. And it's about setting intentions. It's about what you expect. It's about what you want for yourself. It's quite detailed. I was guided to do both of these questionnaires, and I think people are quite surprised when they get them because, the more information I know about what you're looking for, just the easier and quicker we can get into your sessions, basically.
That makes sense.
The more I can help. Yeah, absolutely.
And how is your Money Love program different from your Heal Your Financial Story program?
The Financial Story program actually was an online program that I had. It was a group session. It was for 10 people simply because I just wanted to really be able to heal quite a bit for each individual person. And it was a 3-hour program. Mm-hmm. So, it's online, but the Money Story program and the Life Purpose Revealed program are one-on-one programs. The Life Purpose Revealed is 4 weeks. We get into your life purpose and what it is and all of the details around it, your soul gifts and so on. And then we start clearing on the fears that have been blocking you from entering your life purpose. And the Money Love it's a 6-month program, and it is for people who have long-standing money issues. People who have never we actually sometimes incorporate the life purpose reading as well, just so that, if that's something the person wants to do, they can absolutely do that. But as well, it's for people who have a problem with excessive shopping or basically have never been able to hold on to money, make bad investments, or, maybe have an issue with credit card debt that has been long-standing. Because, when we have long-standing financial issues, there are always a number of reasons for them. And, it takes some time to get to the real bottom, to the core of all of the issues. And during the program, as the time goes by, amazing things happen in people's lives, and about it. It's pretty exciting for me, that's for sure.
Now, one thing that you say on your website is you're also a healer of unwanted and compulsive type behaviors. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
For sure. It actually is part of my soul purpose, and for many people is a money issue. For example, if you have a long-standing money issue, you have some compulsive behaviors, and you may or may not even be aware of them, that are sort of keeping you from looking at your money. And we all sort of adopt these behaviors for different reasons, but it's always to keep us comfortable, to keep us, so that we don't have to face the fears. Because money for so many people is very scary. Many things about money that scares people, and oftentimes it's why people do have money problems, because there are compulsions and addictive-type behaviors under their issues with money. And, they can be some of the deepest issues that we find. I mean, this isn't for every person, but it is quite common. It's interesting.
And does this relate sometimes to things from previous lives and things that you can uncover in the Akashic records?
Most definitely. We can uncover all of it and heal it all. But yes, sometimes it does relate to previous lives. And, fears from a previous life because of something that happened to you in that lifetime that was scary, could be anything, that oftentimes, well, it all transfers to this lifetime. And, when we have fears that we can't identify at a very deep level, we tend to take on, compulsive type behaviors. And, they can be as simple as, some people are, really obsessive about checking their phone. They're constantly looking at their phone or, their email or something. And, those actually are a type of compulsive behavior. And it's a way of avoiding what is actually at the base, the fear that is actually, something that we are trying to escape.
That makes sense.
Yeah, very painful for people.
Yeah. So how can other women in business benefit from working with you? What would you recommend for someone that might want to get started looking at their life purpose, to confirm if they're on their purpose, or to heal their money issues?
Well, honestly, Holly, I like to talk to people. And I often set up a half an hour complimentary call with people.
Okay.
Just so I can find out more about them and explain to them how I work and how I can support them. But I guess, the bottom line with this work is that it is the most powerful form of healing available to us while we're in a human body, because we have access to everything at the level of the soul. And there's nothing deeper. And I guess, anything that is going on in your life that is, not as you want it to be, if you have money issues, if you have fears around money, which often people do, fears around anything in life, or want to know your life purpose, it can all be healed. And that's really, the big thing that I love to tell people, because it just gives people such hope. And, once we start to work together and they see things changing and feel better and see opportunities coming into their lives, they start to understand really the depth of what it is that we can do in the record. Yeah.
And do you have any women business mentors, or are there any women in business who inspire you?
Most definitely. I have worked with some really amazing teachers and mentors, healers. One of them is Baljeet Rayat at lotusdestiny.com. Mm-hmm. She's incredible. She is such a visionary. She's an Akashic Records healer. And, my time with Baljeet was very well spent. I, came out, much more visible in my purpose and, really feeling like I had finally owned who I was at a very deep level. Actually, I've worked with Alexis Logan as well, alexiselogan.com. She is an Akashic Records healer, and she works on people's visibility in their business, which, of course, has been my big issue as well, and differently, which was interesting. And I knew, I was told to work with both of them, so... Alexis works on your body issues. If you have, anything that you're not happy with about your appearance, she helps you be ready to be visible and on stage and, overcome any fears you have around, for example, me going on live talk radio in the U.S. It was Alexis and Baljeet that I was working with at the time when I began that work. And, honestly, I really needed that help to be able to do that, because I was coming from a place of fear and, judgment and all that good stuff. And sometimes, as a healer, when we go into our own Akashic record, we don't have the same clarity, or I guess, we can feel biased because of our own fears. It's much different than going into a client's Akashic record. So I've worked with some wonderful people, and they're certainly two of the top ones. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. And I love how the business mentors that you've had have been aligned with the same kinds of work that you do with your clients as far as Akashic Records consulting.
And, basically I hired both Baljeet and Alexis because they were Akashic Records healers. Because, I know the power of the Akashic Records, and, no offense to anyone who's a coach or anything, because I know that, they're very valuable services. But I think once you've been an Akashic Records healer yourself, you kind of know that you need that as well, just because of the depth and, what can be achieved. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about financial healing or life purpose or anything about the Akashic Records?
I guess, ultimately, if you're not happy in what you're doing, you don't feel complete joy, it's not your life purpose. And, there is something better out there for you. In fact, if you're not in your life purpose, you're not expressing your soul gift. And there are people who need you in the world because, everyone has, their ideal clients when they're in a business. And these are the people who need your services, And if you're not in your purpose, you can't serve the people who need you. And I guess in terms of money, I would just say to people, if you have long-standing money issues, just know that, there's a ton of help for you. Anything can be overcome. Anything can be healed. Any money situation can be completely changed, and at the soul level. So, what happens with your money situation when you begin healing around it is, it's unbelievable, really. It looks like a miracle. That's how I've had people describe it. And yeah, I guess that's just sort of my final thoughts. And I just want people to know that, if you're in a bad situation or not the ideal situation, it can always be changed.
And I think that's really, really important, because sometimes when people get into a really difficult financial situation, or they're really lost and just not doing what they need to be doing, it can feel so desperate and like there's no solution because it feels so dark. And I think that's such an important thing to bring out, is that there is a solution.
Absolutely. People have come to me in the past and said, this, and this, and I don't know, if you can help me, if I'm even helpable. And I'm like, yes, you're helped. Of course I can help you. You have a soul, you have an Akashic record, so we can obviously change something big time for you. And that, immediately starts to change things for people, because they then become open, and then we can just begin our work together. It's very joyful. I love doing that.
It's wonderful. So why don't you share with us where people can find you online?
My website is at manifestyourlifedream.com, and you'll come upon the homepage, and then there is a blog as well, and my services are all on the top there, and you can reach me at manifestyourlifedream.com, and I do my best to get back to people within 12 hours, and I love to hear from people who need help.
Oh, that's wonderful. And if people want to listen to you on the Dr. Pat Show, how can they find you there?
Actually, I've been on the Dr. Pat Show twice. The dates were December 17th and January 15th. I'm going to be on the middle of February as well. And they can simply go to the archives at transformationtalkradio.com and look me up there.
Okay, perfect. So thank you again for joining us. I absolutely loved having you share about the Akashic Records with us. And I think that so many women in business struggle with, on one hand, finding their life purpose, and then on the other hand, dealing with their money issues, because it seems like so many people have stuff around money that needs to be cleared.
Yes, it's very true, Holly. A lot of people do have money issues and fears around money, and everything is fixable. Your money situation can totally be turned around. You can absolutely easily find your life purpose in the Akashic Records. And I guess, no matter what your life looks like right now, there are better days coming. And they can come pretty fast, believe me.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I love to leave people with, hope and the truth, because this work is very powerful, and I feel very privileged to be able to do it.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP29 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.